Thank you, Bill, for this interview on behalf of the River Road African American Museum. As I was sitting around in isolation during this whole coronavirus thing, I thought I'd give you a call and just have some memories about things that you told me over the years about your family. And I thought I might share this with the visitors of the museum, if you don't mind. One, do you have any ancestors or relatives who ever lived upriver near Donaldsonville from New Orleans?
Okay, Kathy, yeah, I do have relatives and descendants from the area. My grandmother and my grandfather owned a restaurant or a meet and greet place in Donaldsonville, which was called the Playhouse. And I have a strong feeling that my mother and father probably met there. It had some aspects of a juke joint. So I know the young people in the area used to go frequent that place and hang out and just do their thing. My grandmother was also part-time a piano teacher. And I'm sure that her love for music and my grandfather's, Medrick Nelson, passed on to us as it did to their children. And on the other side of the river was where my father was born, which is directly across the river from Donaldsonville, and he would take a ferry boat back and forth. There used to be a ferry boat that traveled from Donaldsonville to Darrow and round trip, you know. So he spent a lot of time in Donaldsonville because to him that was the big city, you know. And Donaldsonville actually used to be the capital of Louisiana. Now, on my father's side of the river, the situation was quite different. His family came from a plantation. Many of my family were born on the Ashland Belle Helene plantation. This plantation was built by the Kenner family, the same family that Kenner, Louisiana is named after and where the Louis Armstrong Airport is. The Kenners were very, very popular people. So I have, you know, roots. I worked on the ABC series Roots, but I have my own roots. I call it Roots and Poots. The root side is the African side, the poot side is the other side. You may edit this out. This is up to you. But the Kenners held my family prisoner. Now, some people call them enslaved or slaves. My people were never slaves, they were prisoners, okay? And being in prison on that plantation, they had to work free. And the story is, let me tell you the story. My great-great-grandmother had 7 children by George Kenner, and he was the brother of Duncan. They both ran this Belle Helene Ashland plantation. Well, George Kenner decided he wanted to marry a white woman, so he had to get rid of his black family. And he actually sold his interest in the plantation to his brother Duncan. Now, Duncan in turn kept them prisoner or enslaved on that plantation until my great-grandmother, Georgina, decided it was time to leave. She had actually stashed enough money to buy several of her children out of slavery, and she moved to St. Louis. One of her sons, Alexander Kenner, was very astute and good with numbers, good business head. He and my great-great-grandmother created a business together. It was a cleaning business, a laundry business actually, and they did quite well. She made enough money to actually buy an apartment building where she rented rooms out to up-and-coming black people, you know, youth or people that were struggling to climb that ladder. And she would periodically travel back to Darrow, to the Ashland plantation, to buy one of her children back. And over the years, she bought everyone back except for one of them, and that was Bill Kenner, who was named after William Kenner, who was the son of William Kenner, who was my great-great-grandfather. So I'm very tied to this Kenner family. Alexander actually would come back with her, and they wanted to buy Bill back. But Bill had become a trainer and a jockey for Duncan. And the Kenners were very much into the thoroughbred horse racing scene. They actually had an 8-furlong racetrack on the plantation itself. So, at any rate, she came back for the last time to buy Bill, and Duncan, being the person he is, not a very good person, he said, well, I can't let him go for the same price. He's too valuable to me. I need more money. She said, well, how much more money? He said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. You give me what you have, which was usually about $2,000, $1,800, $2,000. And he'll work for me for 3 years at $15 a month, and then I'll let him go. Well, before that happened, she died. And Duncan went and claimed her estate, brought all the children back into slavery. After he returned to Louisiana, that is Alexander, he became legally a man. He sued Duncan. Actually, slaves could do that. And he won. And Bill was free, but he couldn't leave the area because he had so many children and so many responsibilities that he decided to stay. So yes, Kathy, I can't tell you how many people there are in my family that are from that area, from the River Road communities.
Number 2, do you feel that this has had an impact on your music in any way?
Okay, so Kathy, to be honest with you, Louisiana in general has had a great impact on my musical career. And as I mentioned, my grandparents were avid music lovers, and so were their children. And they passed that on to my cousins and myself, my brother. I actually spent 10 years in the conservatory, and this was at the direction of my parents, who were influenced greatly by their parents. And they said, well, I think it would be a good thing for you guys to attend the conservatory. And I don't think it was actually to become a musician as much as it was to be disciplined, which definitely gave my brother and I a lot of discipline, because we had to practice every day, at least an hour or so, a couple of hours a day for 10 years. And they were great parents, because they didn't care about being our friends. They wanted to be actually good parents. So they made us do this. I didn't like it, but I did. And my Uncle Al Nelson, my mother's brother, had a record collection that was out of this world, and he left this collection with my brother and I. And we had everybody from Perez Prado to Louis Armstrong to Buddy Bolden, everything. We had all kinds of recordings, John Coltrane, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, the full gamut. So there it is, very much the River Road and the communities and Louisiana and Donaldsonville have so many great musicians in the history of art. I think there are a few other guys that are going to be interviewed, Leo Nocentelli, and a few other people, Don Baffy. They all have roots in the River Road communities. So there it is. I was influenced even by them, and they are great friends of mine. So yeah, the history and the culture have had an immense impact on my musical career.
And number 3, would you play a little something for us?
Okay. Oh, play what? Play the bottle? What? No, Kathy, who can play a bottle? I got a bottle. I won't show you what kind of bottle it is, but this is something that I used on the first platinum jazz recording in history. It was called Headhunters, and there was a song on it called Watermelon Man, and I composed a composition that was eventually put in the front of the intro and outro of the song, and I used a bottle to actually play one of the notes. I used an instrument called hee-hoo, and that's what the pygmies, which is not a good word, that's the N-word to them, the Babenzele people of the Tule Forest showed me how to do this. And it goes something like this.